Okay, let's unpack. What if? What if the reason you're afraid of dying isn't because it's unknown? What if it's because deep down, some part of you actually remember? Like, it's happened before, maybe lots of times.
Right. This whole idea that death isn't really the end.
Exactly. There's this, quiet theory floating around that it's more like a reset. Everything gets wiped, yeah? Except maybe some core part of you, something not tied to the brain.
The essence.
Yes. So today we're doing a deep dive into this. We're looking at ideas from places like the Wise Minds YouTube channel, specifically their video, What If Death is Just a Memory Wipe? And you've already died 1,000 times.
A provocative title.
It is. And look, we're not saying this is the truth. We're exploring, we're digging into this concept that challenges, everything we think we know about life and death, looking for those aha moments,
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is how this core idea body expires, but the self resets, echoes things we see in lots of traditions, reincarnation, energy persistence, that kind of thing.
Right.
It taps into something ancient.
It does. But the big question this theory tries to tackle is, okay, if we do keep going, why don't we remember? Why the blank slate? And that's where the memory wipe concept becomes, crucial.
That memory wipe.
Yeah.
Powerful idea. But, if it's a total wipe, how do you explain those weird glitches, those feelings or connections that just don't make sense?
Okay. So this is where it gets really...
Yeah.
What if? What if it's not a perfect wipe? What if things like leak through?
Leaks. Okay. So let's start with maybe the biggest one, fear of death itself. The idea isn't that you fear the unknown, but that you're actually scared of remembering dying, like a cellular thing.
Exactly. I mean, think about how people describe it. Often it's vague, right? Darkness, pain, losing control. But sometimes if you probe it, specific feelings pop up, like a sudden overwhelming terror of falling. Or suffocate, or being, pulled away from someone you love.
And these aren't linked to anything that happened in this life. Not necessarily. That's the intriguing part. They just arrive, almost like they're hardwired. So the theory goes, maybe it's not a new fear. Maybe it's the nervous system literally remembering the physical sensations of dying before.
Wow. Like the pain, the helplessness.
The unfinished feeling, maybe.
Yeah.
It could explain, say, why you get that sudden panic driving over a bridge, even if you've never had an accident or near deep water.
Or a certain sound just sets you off.
Precisely. Your conscious mind forgot. But maybe the cells, they hold an echo.
Okay, so it's not the unknown, it's the known that's buried deep that really reframes.
It does.
And if fear can be an echo, what about déjà vu? Just brush it off, right? Brain hiccup.
Yeah, the standard explanation. A little neurological misfire. But what if it's more?
More than a glitch, like actual residue from a life you already lived, something that just slipped through the memory.
Well, think about the feeling of déjà vu sometimes. It's not just, this seems familiar. There's often this weird emotional weight to it, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Walking into a room and it feels like the room.
Or seeing a stranger's face and feeling this jolt of recognition. Or watching something unfold and just knowing exactly what's coming next.
Uncanny.
So, from this theory's perspective, maybe that's not a malfunction. Maybe it is residue, a little trace that didn't get fully erased. You even hear about regression research, under hypnosis.
Right, I've heard of that.
Where people describe historical details, places, family stuff they couldn't possibly know, but then checks out with records. It's like finding your own footprint in a place you swear you've never visited.
Finding a footprint. I like that. So some part of us knows, and, if these fragments are leaking through, it makes you question the whole death is the end thing for the soul, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
What if it really does just reset?
That's the heart of it, really. I mean, how else do you explain something? Kids who suddenly speak languages they were never taught. People feeling this intense, inexplicable pull to a certain time period or location.
Things that just don't fit our current narrative.
Exactly. So if you think of the soul less like a flame that just goes out and more like, say, data.
Okay, data.
Then death isn't deletion. It's more like a system reboot.
Yeah.
The life ends. The information gets, compressed, filed away.
Compacted down.
Yeah. And then eventually it gets sort of unspooled again in a new body, a new context. So you're not starting completely fresh each time.
You're carrying stuff over.
Kind of like compressed files. Bits of meaning, maybe trauma, love, things left unresolved, loaded in as a sort of quiet background process. It's why some things just feel familiar, even if you can't say why.
A continuity we can't quite grasp consciously. Okay, speaking of things we don't consciously grasp. Near-death experience. NDEs.
Ah, yes.
Well,
always fascinating.
They're often talked about in mystical terms, but could they fit into this memory wipe idea? Maybe they're glimpses of the truth behind it?
Well, the similarities are pretty striking, aren't they? Across cultures, backgrounds, people report such similar things.
Floating above their body.
Seeing their own body, yeah. Moving through a tunnel, often towards light. Entering some kind of space that's hard to describe. Meeting beings.
Beings that feel familiar. Loving.
Often, yes. And that feeling of not wanting to come back. Now, skeptics talk about brain chemistry, lack of oxygen.
Right, the dying brain explanation.
But that doesn't always neatly explain cases where people report specific details, conversations happening elsewhere, events they couldn't possibly have seen or heard while, clinically dead or unconscious.
Verify it.
Sometimes, yeah. So this theory suggests maybe NDEs aren't hallucination. Maybe they're actual moments where the veil thin, a peek behind the curtain of this reality.
A window.
A window into something deeper, yeah.
Yeah.
But the door closes quickly. Not because you failed a test or anything, but maybe remembering too much would break the spell of this current. It would make it hard to stay engaged.
Like the system protecting itself, keeping the simulation stable. Maybe.
That's one way to think about it, yeah. Protects the integrity of the current experience.
Okay. And what about dream? Not just any dream, but those ones that feel intensely, the ones that stick with.
Oh, yeah. Those heavy ones.
Could a dream about dying, for example, feel so real because on some level it was real? A memory surface.
Well, there are definitely dreams that feel different, aren't there? They don't have that usual floaty dream logic. Mm-hmm. They feel precise, weighty. You wake up feeling disoriented, maybe.
And the emotions linger all day.
Exactly. And you do find case studies in dream research where people dream of their own death in ways that later seem to match historical events or contain details they didn't consciously know.
Really?
It's suggested that maybe in deep sleep, those barriers, the ones maintaining the memory wipe, they loosen up a bit. And fragments of stored memory, maybe past life memory, can slip through.
So if you wake up grieving something from a dream.
Something you never actually experienced in this life, this theory would say maybe it wasn't just a dream. Maybe it was an echo of a real loss.
That makes a strange kind of sense for those really intense.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. Mm-hmm. What about people? Those connections you feel, that instant bond or sometimes instant friction with someone you've literally just met. It defies logic sometimes. What if?
Yeah.
What if you're drawn to them because you've actually lost them before or known them before?
That sense of quiet recognition, right? It's a powerful feeling, an immediate ease, or maybe an intense pull. It feels way bigger than the short time you've known them.
Yeah, it can feel urgent or even messy.
Like something's trying to play out again, some unfinished business. Frameworks that talk about soul memory often suggest we travel in groups,
Right.
Playing different roles for each other across lifetimes.
So my parent now could have been my friend then, or a stranger.
Or someone you had a deep conflict with, yeah. The idea is you don't remember the specifics, the who, what, when, but the emotional resonance, the energetic tie, that lingers. It might explain why some relationships feel impossible.
Because it's not just about this life. Exactly. Something deep inside remembers the pattern, remembers how it ended last time, and feels compelled to, well, maybe get it right this time, or just understand it better.
That adds a whole other layer to relationship.
Wow. Okay, and speaking of things, Lynn, phobia, those fears that just make no sense based on your life experiences.
Right, like a crippling fear of deep water when you grew up landlocked and never had a bad experience.
Or fire when you've never seen a dangerous fire.
Yeah.
It's not in your story, but it's in you.
It feels like it lives in the body. And this is where past life research often finds really strong link. People under hypnosis recalling deaths.
That match their phobia.
Very often, yes. Like someone terrified of swords uncovering a memory of a violent death involving, and crucially when that memory is brought to light, processed.
The phobia lessens.
Often significantly, or it might even disappear. It suggests the conscious mind blocks the traumatic story, but the body holds on to the imprint of the pain or terror until it's acknowledged. Call them death echoes. Death echoes. That's powerful. So the past isn't even past, it's physically present.
Yeah.
Which makes me think about karma, technically, right? Like cosmic scorekeeping. You do bad happens.
The punishment model, yeah. Very simplistic.
But what if it's more complex? More like memory management for the soul, not punishment.
That's a much deeper interpretation, I think. Viewing karma not as retribution, but as cause and effect playing out across time. A way to balance memory and experience, ultimately for growth.
So the soul is like writing a really long story.
And constantly editing, refining, learning, confronting themes it didn't quite resolve last time around.
Yeah.
So if you hurt someone, maybe you end up in their shoes next time, not to be punished,
but to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because maybe the only way to fully integrate that experience, that perspective, is to live it. So karma becomes the weight, or maybe the driving narrative the soul carries until it understands itself more completely. It's about completion, not judgment.
Completion, not judge. I like that. It really changes the feel. And thinking about, what if the whole point isn't just to live this life well, but to get off the ride?
Whoa, okay, that's a big one. Are we here to perfect the experience of being human or to somehow transcend it entirely?
Yeah. Is it a ladder or a loop?
Some traditions definitely talk about it like a loop. Cycles of life, death, rebirth, going around and around, learning similar lessons in different costumes, you could say.
Until
until you get it, until you're no longer attached, no longer reactive in the same ways, until you don't need the memory wipe anymore because you've integrated all those fragmented parts.
You don't come back.
Then, according to this view, you don't die in the usual sense. You step out of the loop. You stop the cycle of returns because there's nothing left that needs to be forgotten and relearned. You're whole.
So the goal isn't just how you live, but maybe if you need to live again. Okay, final point, and this one kind of blew my mind.
All right, let's hear it.
What if the fear of death itself, the one we started with, isn't just a byproduct? What if it's installed, like by design?
Installed, you mean deliberately?
Yeah, to stop you from unlocking the secrets too soon, from seeing through the game.
Huh, that's a fascinating twist. The fear itself as part of the architecture, a built-in block.
Right. Think about it. If you weren't afraid of dying, if you knew it was just a reset, you ask different questions. Would you start poking at the edges of reality?
Would you stop taking it all so seriously?
Exactly. Would you still get so invested in success, failure, relationships, pain, if you saw it all as temporary, as part of a pattern?
It might destabilize, make it hard to fully commit to this particular life's lesson.
That's the idea. The fear isn't there to torture necessarily. It's there to keep the simulation stable, to make sure you play this round fully, engaged.
Wow. So the fear is a feature, not a bug in this model.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
So, wrapping this all up, what does this mean? We've gone through some pretty wild ideas here. Death as a wipe, echoes of the past showing up as fear, déjà vu, connections.
It definitely invites you to look at things differently, doesn't it? It gives a potential why to some really common but often unexplained human experiences.
Yeah, like maybe déjà vu isn't just a glitch. Maybe that phobia isn't random.
It offers another lens, another possible layer of meaning to consider when you reflect on your own life, those odd moments, the feeling.
And that final thought, if you start to see the fear of death not as just this terrifying void, but maybe as a mechanism, something built.
Does that change the fear itself? Probably not.
No, probably not. But maybe it changes how you relate to it, how you relate to life, knowing it might be just one chapter in a much, much longer story. Something to think about anyway. What does that mean for how you see your own existence and what might really come next?